Good. Everything looks good. All right. So, hello and welcome. I'm very excited. This is brand new. We have no idea what we're doing. Yeah. I have no idea if you can see us or hear us or both. Okay. And the perfect test subject for the first interview that might not go as planned is my dear friend Kousen.
Hey.
Welcome to Build Propulsion Lab episode 0.0.0.1.
Wow. So, well, at least it's out of beta. Right?
It's we never do beta. Yeah, right. We never do beta. We go right to production and then we see what's going on.
Very good.
Very good. Very, very excited to start this thing. Started in UberConf, right. Very friendly conference that we'll have. Okay. With dear friends and colleagues, both among speakers right. and among the attendees. We'll see how it goes.
Sure.
Now, look what I want to do. I want to establish like a catchphrase, like our thing question that will be unique and recognizable.
Okay.
So let's see how it goes. Ken, how slow is your build?
How slow is your build? Sounds like a Johnny Carson joke. Right?
This is what I'm trying to go.
I see. No, my builds don't tend to be very slow. Mine tend to be pretty good. But then again, I'm mostly teaching people about them and working on small to mid-sized projects. I don't work on giant projects. I work on multi-project builds, but the slowest ones are very likely Android builds because they add so many hundreds of tasks to the build. But other than that, my builds are pretty good.
Let me bring it down. Break it down. So you say medium-sized Android project. What are we talking about? 10 minutes, 5 minutes?
Oh, 5 minutes. 10 would be really long. No, I'd keep it at 5 minutes or less. Again, I'm building my own projects that I use for teaching purposes primarily, and for demonstrations. Now, when I work on open source projects, those obviously take a lot longer. So those would be the ones, but I don't consider those mine exactly. You know what I mean? I'm just participating and helping out on those. So if we want to say any build that takes a long time, it would be, you know, the big open source project builds. But when I work on Spring, when I work on JUnit tests, when I work on Mockito, all those things go pretty quickly.
All right. So you say, and they include tests, right? The 5 minutes includes tests and everything.
Yeah, because I would never skip the tests unless I absolutely had to.
All right. Okay. So that's good. My kind of people. Yeah, great. Yeah. So we're going to get to the interesting part in a second. Okay. I'll just try to establish, this our own thing with the builds. So, right. So 5 minutes. And that's like, this is on the longer side.
Well, and especially for Android ones. Right. And Android ones don't always have tests. I have to admit that.
So what do you do in those 5 minutes?
Oh. Nothing productive, I'm sure.
You have two options. You can stare at the screen, or you can go and do something else. What do you do?
That's what my phone's for, catch up on social media and all that. I don't know. Don't have any other options there.
All right, here we go. So I have no idea what we're going to do with it, if it's going to stick or we'll select something else, but we'll try it. Okay, so how slow is your build? That will be our thing.
Okay.
All right.
So that's our thing.
I thought that was your thing.
Yeah, for build, right? Build propulsion. So what's Build Propulsion Lab?
So we're going to propulse our builds to be faster, right? In this very scientific labs.
Okay.
I think we had an idea of having like lab codes.
No.
But we might get to it.
Make it all very scientific, yes, of course.
This is all one big minimal valuable product, what we do now. And then it will be continuous improvement. For example, if there is no sound and we just no one can hear us, this will something that we will improve going forward.
Let's hope that's not the case.
We have no idea because I wanted someone to check, but the guys there are busy and Justin is busy as well.
You don't think it's personal, do you? I hope not.
You can never know.
I mean, you've been at Gradle now for how long? You just
maybe half a year already?
Yeah, but it's less than a year. It's still pretty shiny and new, I would think.
So people can still. I mean, we're still in honeymoon.
I was Gradle am once removed. I was kind of friend of the family.
Yeah, you're still friend of the family.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I actually had a job with them more or less. I taught the intro
Yep.
to the Gradle build tool class every other month for I don't know, 5 years, something like that. But they have vastly expanded all that and taken it all in house and converted everything to Kotlin, and you know how it is. So that's and by the way, I don't mean to imply anything bad about that. That's all great. I'm glad they did it. I'm glad they're expanding it. The offerings needed to grow, and it's I'm blanking on the name of the guy who's in charge of it now, but he's doing an excellent job. So I have no problem with it at all.
Yep. All right. Okay. So first of all, you're still friend of the family.
Yeah, yeah.
And everybody talk about you,
The
remember
crazy
you.
uncle, yeah.
They remember you and mention. We're going to talk about the crazy uncle in a second. We will get to the details from the Joe side.
Right.
So yeah, UberConf. This is your home court, right?
This is a big one for me. I've been a no fluff speaker on a regular on the tour for, my goodness, I think this is my 12th year, something like that. So the one destination show, as they call it, that I do every year is this one, is UberConf. Come to Denver in July and try to avoid getting roasted, you know.
Well, that's better than Florida in July, but Florida is in December, so we're good.
Where it always rains, but yeah, this one's, I prefer this one.
How many talks do you have? And then just for whoever is not familiar, UberConf, one of the traits of this is that the speakers that are here are usually doing multiple talks. And that's just to build this relationship and maximize. If we got the speaker as good as Ken, we need to milk all of it. Wow. So how many talks do you have?
This one is actually a little bit less than normal, fewer than normal because it's an integer. Anyway, I did a full day workshop yesterday, so that kind of counts as 4 for invoicing purposes. And then I think I have 6 more. I've got 2 this afternoon, or 1 this afternoon, 1 tonight, and then 4 tomorrow.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh wow! Yeah, no, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I did 2, and I think like it's a lot. But well, we have Dr.
It's a
Venkat.
muscle you build. Well, I've done a Venkat before. You know, I mean, that's a term, right?
Yeah. It's
I did a full Venkat one time, which was
so going
every
all
slot,
Venkat
right?
basically means taking every slot, basically having the entire how do you call it? The entire
schedule.
The entire schedule, all the slots on all the days, doing all the possible talks.
Right, and then a royal Venkat would be to add in the keynotes as well.
Right.
And one time he did what we call a full metal Venkat, where he threw in an extra talk just outside of hours just because.
Yeah, well, that's Venkat.
Yeah, no, I did a full Venkat a couple of years ago, and I don't want to do that again.
I don't know how
that was tiring. Yeah, I was exhausted. This will be enough, actually. 6 is plenty, especially because 1, I mean, they were all revised, but 1 is completely new. The one today on AI tools for Java developers.
Oh, very nice.
Well, that's what the shirt's for.
Yeah. Arranging in the machine learning.
Right.
Yeah,
so that's that one is, things are updating like today. Facebook, I refuse to call them Meta. I'm sorry, they can't have that term, you know. But they released their Llama 2 version, open source, today. Although it's not accessible to everybody. The announcement was today, so I have to update everything about that as well.
I actually think it is. It's just like a little bit awkward. You basically sign up. They send you a letter on 3 pages on what you're not allowed to do, it has the link there.
But as long as you don't have your app being used by more than 700 million users, then it's free.
Exactly. Yeah. So, okay, all right. So this the Rage Against Machine Learning, and that's your AI for Java developers.
Right.
What else?
I did have, I have a talk on JUnit 5, which I really like, and a search A. I have a talk on Mockito, you know, based on my book for this year. Mockito, the mock stubs and spies testing. I have, yesterday was a upgrade to modern Java talk, which started off with streams and lambdas and method references and went all the way through to the new features coming in Java 21. I mean, we talked about enhanced switch, we talked about records and pattern matching and the local variable type inference and all these different features, sealed classes, everything put together.
Wow.
Yeah, and I have a couple of talks tomorrow covering a lot of that same ground, but not for the workshop. It's just to show some applications and things related. I don't think I have a Gradle talk this time. I often do, but this time I mean, you're here to talk about Gradle, right? Or?
Well, actually, no, we are not talking about Gradle. We're talking about developer productivity engineering as a discipline. Okay, you're all your eyes. Okay,
Wow,
let's talk about that. Let's talk about it. Let's address the elephant.
I mean, I'm
in the room.
The grumpy Gradle fan in the room. Yes.
Yeah, they're not grumpy anymore.
I did a video on my channel last weekend on Gradle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just trying to show that basic file manipulation stuff like creating an archive, zip and unzip can be done in Gradle. And I had to use the Groovy DSL because that's the one I'm the most comfortable with. But I also put in the Kotlin DSL only to have Cedric Champeau say, you could simplify that if you just did this, and this. And,
so,
which is good.
I got to work with Kotlin DSL like after joining Gradle. I have to say it's much more awkward than Groovy DSL. Groovy DSL is much more streamlined and feel like domain-specific language.
I don't want to make a value judgment on it. I mean, I like both languages, although Groovy's always going to be my first love.
Of course.
Love that. But the Kotlin DSL is now the default, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm coming up to speed on the parts that are not the same as what they are in the Groovy DSL. I mean, a lot of features can be done the same in both, but many of them are different. And I got a little mixed up with the provider interfaces and things. Turns out I can ignore a lot of that if I do it right. But, I made a mistake. I was not willing to admit this to Cedric online. Part of what got me into trouble is, in JetBrains IntelliJ IDEA, the beta version has a new AI assistant in it. And of course, I'm doing this AI talk, so I had to try it out. So when I was doing the port, I said, okay, AI assistant, here's the Groovy version. Give me the Kotlin DSL version. And that's what led me down the wrong path. So
I agree. I did the same mistake with ChatGPT. I asked it to rewrite some Groovy DSL into Kotlin. That was not pretty.
Well, the code worked.
It's just not ideal.
Yeah, you're doing it wrong.
Exactly.
Kind of. There's a better way.
But wait a second. You tried to ditch it. I won't let you ditch it. So developer productivity engineering. Talk to me. Not a thing.
It's not a thing. It's an artificial. Developer productivity is a thing.
Right.
Developers are a thing, but engineering, you can't put engineering. Engineering is a discipline.
Excellent.
Engineering is something you train for and you study and it's got evaluation criteria and it's got certifications and developer productivity engineering sounds like a marketing person. It's like when they talk about so-and-so university. It's like it's not a university. They're just making it up because it sounded good.
All right. Let me make a counterpoint here.
Okay.
So developer productivity, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Having a good coffee machine in the office is developer productivity.
Sure. I'll go along with that. No
right,
problem.
and obviously.
Got to have the Java developers have Java. Yes.
Right, and having Slack or not having Slack is both developer productivity.
And negative productivity, both, yes.
Right.
Yeah, depending on the channel,
excellent.
Yes.
Now, this, from my perspective, has very little to do with what we are talking about, which is the engineering aspect of developer productivity. And that will be faster feedback on your tests, finding and eliminating flaky tests, having your IDE being smart enough to show you compilation errors in runtime. The stuff that has really to do with software engineering aspect of developer productivity.
So, like if you define software engineering as everything about development other than the code, then I see you're talking developer productivity. Engineering is everything about the build other than the actual build script. Something like that?
It's the other way. It's everything about developer productivity engineering, developer productivity, which has to do with software engineering.
Okay, yeah, all right. So it's not the code, but it's the environment.
It's how productive are we in writing the code. You know what? Okay. Programming languages.
Yeah.
Groovy is an excellent tool of developer productivity engineering because we're very productive in it. And it's not about having a coffee machine in the office. Okay. How do you make this separation between having a coffee machine and using Groovy and not Cobble as being not productive? How do you talk about those two things, not calling them the same name?
The only problem I have is with the word engineering. I mean, I was a career changer. I started off in engineering, and it was like a real discipline with, all this stuff.
You know what? What we can start with? Software engineering is not engineering. How about that?
I would probably agree with you on that.
Perfect.
But I've lost that battle already.
Excellent. I will ride on your lost battle.
Okay. Yeah.
And we'll ask you if you concede that software is engineering, although both of us have doubt about that.
Go ahead.
But if we concede that, then the developer productivity engineering is not an engineering discipline per se.
Right.
It's something that relates to developer productivity in software engineering aspect of the productivity, like big picture.
Okay, I understand your argument. I'm not really, I don't care so much that I'd fight about it. I mean,
come on. This is what we do for how many years? Fight about the stuff.
But if that's the point, it's been so many years that you've learned to pick your battles, and I'm not going to use that term.
This is why.
But I'm willing to go along with it. I just feel like if it didn't feel like it was a sales term, that it was adopted merely to make a set of good practices collectively sound like a discipline just for sales purposes, it wouldn't bother me so much, and I admit I have not looked into it. I don't know what its roots are. To me, it suddenly magically sprung up when, at Gradle a couple of years ago, and they started pushing this thing, and okay, I mean, whatever. I'm not using this term.
First of all, I love.
But I like the disciplines. I mean, I like the AI part you have with the detecting flaky tests and all of that. That's really good stuff. I mean, it's really good. It's just, I just think of it as part of Gradle. I don't think of it as part of developer productivity engineering.
It has very little to do with Gradle per se, because if you do it with other tool, how it is related to Gradle?
Well, there's no other tool that does it.
So come to my talk tomorrow. I will show you how ChatGPT can detect flaky tests.
Now, the problem with that is tomorrow's my busy day.
I know.
Tomorrow, so I don't know. But I will watch the recording, right?
But what I mean is I can strip it of Gradle entirely.
Okay.
And do it with C++, God forbid.
Okay.
It will still be something that
My condolences, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still something that I need to put a term on it. What is the engineering part of developer productivity?
Why can't you just call it developer productivity?
Because it's not about having a coffee machine, and it's a it's important difference.
I have no idea what you would call it. I don't have a term in mind. Okay.
I do.
Yes, you do. And I'm going to let it go. I still have a somewhat cynical view of it. That's
fine.
And over time, I imagine I will get used to it, and I may even find myself using it, because this field is all about adapting to change over time. But I'm not just going to go willingly and say, oh yeah, this is a new hot thing, let me jump into that.
It's fine. That's all I ask is keep an open mind and tell me if it makes sense in the end of it.
Sure, and maybe I'll be safely retired by the time you're writing your book on developer productivity.
Right. That might very well happen. Or we might co-author a book on developer productivity engineering.
Then something went really, really wrong. So just so we know.
That's life. Okay. That's life. All right. Okay. So we're way past what we planned to in time, but
I kind of knew that was going to happen.
But exactly, it's you and I. This is what we do. It's fine. So let's talk about stuff that you kind of mentioned in passing, and I'm really interested to have.
What's up?
The YouTube thing, the Tales from the Jar side. What's going on? It's also like you have a ticker right here that talks about it. Why people should
Well,
find and subscribe?
It's two things. First of all, I have a newsletter of the same name. So it's hosted on Substack. It's called Tales from the Jar site, and basically it's about whatever I happen to be working on. It's a company newsletter for a one-person company. But as it turns out, and that's been going on every Sunday for the past, 4.5 years, really. Mm-hmm. But the younger generation is more interested in watching videos than they are in reading. And the thing gets so long, it pushes the limit of email every week. So I started a channel at the beginning of this year just to say, well, if you don't feel like reading my newsletter, that's okay, I'll read it to you. That's the idea. But what happened, of course, is that in addition to putting out a video every Monday with the newsletter, it's a director's cut, tell the stories and everything. I also put out, 5 to 10, 15-minute videos on topics in Gradle, in what else have I done on Mockito? I've done all series on that, JUnit, just a whole bunch of Spring, different technologies. So I try to do one newsletter video a week and one technical video a week just to make it interesting. And it's at youtube.com/@talesfromthejarside. And the pun is still appealing to me.
So tell me, what is your target audience? Who should go and subscribe?
Well, it seems to appeal mostly to developers who are in the early to mid stages of their career. It's basically an accumulation of insights that I've picked up over the years. I don't want to do hello world type tutorials. I mean, I might wind up doing some of that, but I'm more saying, well, did you know you could do this? Or did you know this is how this worked? And isn't this interesting? You may not have seen this. And for example, the reason I made that Gradle video I was telling you about is that I noticed that very few people talk about the file manipulation capabilities in Gradle. And I used to teach the class, and it's a topic within the training that became de-emphasized over time, not because anybody didn't want to do it, just because other topics became more important. I don't want it to be lost. I thought it would be interesting for people to see how easy it is.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And another topic that I also wanted to ask you, you're a serial book writer, right?
I hope I've broken that habit.
How many?
6.
That's insane. I've done co-authoring 2, and it was the worst experience in my life. Well, it's so hard.
And I did it in a 10-year period.
But still, 6 is
too much. Yeah. So I mean, it's not Venkat, but it's So it was the Making Java Groovy book was the first one. That was from Manning. So that was about Java and Groovy integration, and then I did Gradle recipes for Android. So that was an O'Reilly book in cooperation with Gradle, specifically for Android projects. And then I figured, well, I've already written one recipe book, how hard it could be to write another, which wrong.
Yep.
So I did modern Java recipes, which was about streams and lambdas and method references. Went from that to my last one at O'Reilly was called Kotlin Cookbook. So I was learning Kotlin because of Android and Gradle. And then I went over to Pragmatic Programmers and wrote my Managing Your Manager book, which is called Help Your Boss Help You. I still don't like the title, but it's my Managing Your Manager book. And then the most recent one that came out at the beginning of this year, or February, was Mockito Made Clear. So it was all about mock stubs and spies with Mockito, and I'm done.
Which is a topic in developer productivity engineering that has nothing to do with Gradle.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. Right.
It's a topic in developer productivity anyway.
The coffee machine, the coffee machine kind, or the engineering kind.
It's a testing tool that is very useful and very helpful and very poorly understood. And there's a lot of people out there who have a negative bias against it. And I'm like, no, look, here's what it's for. Here's how you use it. Here's how it can be productive for you. It's not an exhaustive reference, but it's a useful one. It's quick, it's easy, it's a short book. It's an ebook only. You come up to speed.
It makes your tests more stable.
That's the idea.
It makes
more
your
productive,
tests faster.
Right? There's the word.
You make you more productive.
Right.
In the area of productivity, which is software engineering.
You're going to make me say it. You're not going to let me go until I say developer productivity engineering. Yeah.
Thank you. And with that, Ken, it was a pleasure as usual.
Yes, of course.
There are not many things that I enjoy as much as giving you shit life. Thank you all very much.
Anytime.
And we'll see you, and you'll see me in the Tales from the Jar side YouTube.
Right. We're going to do a live stream on Friday, and I'm going to announce it later today, put up a post, and feel free to come in, and then you can harass me to your heart's content.
No, that will be the other way around. You're the host.
Oh, cool. That's right. Okay, then I'll have to come up with some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Friday.
Thank you.
Bye bye.